Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Bigger, and I'm back again with another episode. And today is going to be great because I get to help my men out. I get to help the fellas out. Today's episode, it's about why men should be vulnerable. Before we get started, I'm going to have a toast to you, everyone out there listening, watching, and Sparkling Rose, Elia, all the way from Spain. It's really good. It's really smooth. 20% off when you use my promo code EB20 for all orders up to $100. Promo code is EB20. Check the details in the show notes and look them up. Elia. It's really great. Why men should be vulnerable. But why men should be vulnerable in a relationship. To some of you who don't know, who you might know, I have the privilege to really coach a lot of high-end, independent, successful women. In the course of this year, I've helped three of them get through divorces, 17 years, 15 years, 21 years. Most of my clients are women, 40s, 40 and older, kids, married or previous married. They're very independent. I've been collecting a lot of data on like what do women really want, what's lacking in a man from a woman's perspective, but I also know being a man, how to hold space for these type of women, and just women in general. But I'll just start with myself. First of all, vulnerability is a superpower and it's the gateway to authenticity. And our most vulnerable self, usually when it comes from a man's perspective or paradigm, is very fearful. It lacks confidence. It lacks faith. It lacks trust, a space where we don't maneuver, we don't move, we don't really tap into because the stereotypes that were put on us as men in society. You got to be a man, you got to be strong, you got to hold it down. You know all the cliches. Don't ever let them see you sweat. Men don't cry, boys do. You know, the list go on and on. A tough guy. You got to be the man of the house. My dad would always say, take care of your sisters and be the man of the house, right? I'm 13, 14. Okay, pops, be the man of the house, whatever that means. And I remember I didn't cry until the age of 25. And I was standing strong my whole life because coming up in Baltimore, growing up in a tough environment, you don't show no emotions, you don't dance, you don't even smile. And granted, I got a great smile, right? I didn't even smile. I was always just suppressed. I was suppressed in my emotions. I was suppressed in my feelings. I never understood feelings, emotions, and when it came to relationships, at least in my mind and in my life, because I didn't have that affection and nurturing from my mom the way I needed it or wanted, I was so afraid of love. You know, I didn't grow up in a family where we hugged or we told each other we love you or I love you or we talked about our feelings or our emotions. Growing up as a young man, I mean, that's my norm. That's all I know. So when it comes to affections, when it comes to feelings and emotions, like that's like so foreign. I don't talk about that. What I realized was that even though I had this strong exterior and I was driven and I was motivated, I was so afraid to be weak, right? And I was so afraid to be vulnerable and I was so afraid to be my true self. So most of my life, from a young man up until adulthood, I was just afraid to be who I needed to be. I just kind of like was quiet about my feelings. I didn't say much and I just kept it going. And it's so interesting that God put me on TV and the first time my parents or my family ever heard me talk about emotions and or love when I was 29 on The Bachelorette. And so of course they was all shattered and they were like, "You felt that way? You felt like we didn't love you? You felt like we didn't care about you?" Right? And that was the first time when I think about it now that I felt comfortable or I felt safe to be vulnerable about my feelings. I didn't know that I didn't speak about my feelings. I never brought a girl home at the time. So no one ever knew who I was dating and who I was seeing. And no one asked me either. They got so upset about my truth, but no one ever asked me about my feelings or my emotions. So that was odd. But then I realized that's the norm where I was raised and how I was brought up. Emotions and affection was rare. So, you know, in my life, that's just what I knew. And so as I've dated women over the years, I was never vocal about how I felt. If I really like someone, I would show them. You know, my love language is acts of service and quality time. Words don't really do much for me, but they do today because I understand them more. So I'm saying all this to say because I want to get into the importance of why men should be vulnerable. So 4 tips of why men should be vulnerable in life and in relationship. Emotional intimacy, it builds trust, it improves communication, and you break down the stereotype of the tough guy. right? So for me, it actually tapped into conversation with family members and people close to me, where I was having conversation with my sisters about the type of woman I should date and what's their background. And I was like, sis, you never asked me about the woman I dated. You never gave me feedback or game. So it improved the communication. I was able to have deep conversations with my mom, and my dad apologized to me because I was vulnerable. My dad was vulnerable. He apologized to me on national TV. So the conversation improves. So, men, the rule number one, conversation rules the nation. So when you're vulnerable, you not only improve the conversation with people around you, but you improve the conversation within yourself. Because the number one relationship and the best relationship you should have is with yourself. So if you're not speaking to yourself or opening up to yourself, it's not going to be easy for people to open up to you or for you to open up to others. So you have to build that, improve the communication within self. So being vulnerable improves communication overall. It's very important. You need to know that. Write that down if you have to. It improves vulnerability, improves communication. Second, it builds trust. Let me give you a story. I might have said this on previous episodes. So the old me who wasn't vulnerable, and I was asking a girl out, I'll give you a scenario. And I say, hey, if you're free on Friday, if you want to hang out, you should go to the movies with me around 7. Let me know if you're free. Right? Is that vulnerable? Think about it. The second one is, listen, there's a movie that comes out Friday. It's a Christmas movie called Red One. It's at 7 p.m. at the Grove, and I would love to take you to the movies and spend time with you. Let me know if you can go. What's the difference in that conversation and those words? So the first half is I'm building up the conversation not to be rejected because I'm saying, hey, if you open on Friday, I would like to take you to the movies. Let me know if you're free or not. The second one is like, look, I want to take you to the movies. I want to be around you. 7 p.m. Red One. Let's go. Let's go watch it. Christmas movie. When we get vulnerable and we speak like that, the vulnerable way we build trust in with people like, oh, so now she knows, oh, this guy wants to take me out. She's more clear. I want to take you out on Friday. This is a day. I'll come pick you up. You start to allow her to open up to build some type of trust or rapport with you. I'm building trust because I'm telling you how I'm feeling. I'm telling you I want to take you out. I'm telling you I like you. I remember a moment when I was younger. I was dating this young woman named Natalie. I was working at the Crocker Club downtown. We're probably talking and dating for like 6 months. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? We were outside and she's like, I don't know. I don't feel like you like me. I'm like, what do you mean I don't like you? I'm like, what? We hang out. We spend time. I'll let you come over. She's like, yeah, but you never tell me how you feel. And I was like, oh, wow. So I'm over here, fellas, we do this. We'll spend money, we'll spend time. We might compliment them on their attire or their hair or their features. We might even have fun in the bedroom, but we won't really express those emotions. It's funny, I had a client tell me, she said, Eric, I don't understand men. How is it that men put all their faces in all the places, all over your body and do all these things, but they can't even express their feelings to you or how they feel about you, or they won't say the words I love you, or it's so weird. I was like, that is so odd that we'll do all the physical things, but when it comes to that vulnerability in our communication about our feelings, we shy away from it. So ladies, what that means is that he's afraid to express himself because he's afraid that if he express himself, he's going to lose his power. So ladies, write that down. Most men are afraid to express their true feelings when they in love or when they love someone because they're afraid they're going to lose their power and you're going to take advantage of their feelings, right? Because there are women out there that have taken advantage of vulnerable men. That is a thing. And men, we don't know how to deal with heartbreak the way women do. When you allow yourself to be intimate with a woman you love and you're into, you actually alchemize the power within your vessel to get more out of life. See, we looking at what we getting out of the relationship, what we getting out of her, but you get more out of life because there's no stagnation in the love department. There's no stagnation in the communication department. There's no stagnation in your vulnerability and your emotions and your feelings. You're truly embodied in the emotions and in the joy and the expression of love with no fear, right? So, but the challenge is for us as men, the reason we can't get emotionally vulnerable or intimate is because we don't have the emotional, vulnerable, and intimate relationship with self. We've been programmed in a society as men to provide, to protect, to be the leader, to be the man of the house. Those are all masculine traits. No one tells you to be spiritual. No one tells you to allow. No one tells you to trust. It's all protect, provide, lead. That's it. Security, right? And a woman feels safe when you're providing, you're protecting, and you're leading, right? And you're making the decisions. But there's another component where she's missing out, and that's that vulnerability and that's emotional intimacy. If you're a man right now, shouts out to all the men that's doing the best they can, because we don't know what we don't know. This is why I'm doing this podcast. And I want to give information and insight deeper into how you can add these little tidbits to what you're already doing. So if you're a man and you're providing, you're protecting, and you're leading, there's two other things that might be missing in this package. And number one is, do you mentally connect with your woman? And are you emotionally intimate with your woman? Like, do she feel safe coming to you with her problems or her fears or her emotions without you running or getting afraid? Are you comfortable being vulnerable and crying or allowing your true self to be seen when you're not your best? So the biggest thing that I learned from women, I tell guys all the time, I say, listen, brother, you can provide and you can protect her and you can lead her. But if you're not emotionally and spiritually connected to her, you're going to lose her because she wants to feel your masculinity from an intimate, emotional space. She wants to feel that in her body. She wants to feel like y'all reading on the same page, that you're gazing in her eyes and she can feel what you feel. And you love her the way she loved you. And y'all one. But a lot of times we might be there in the bedroom. We might be there when it comes to paying the bills. But we're not there when it's throughout the day or, early in the morning, or we'll get what we want. And then say you dating, we'll get what we want. And then we don't even communicate until we see them again. So the underlying thing is that the most important thing I think in 2024, moving into 2025, is that men, we got to communicate emotionally. We got to become vulnerable. We got to build trust within ourselves. We got to improve the communication within ourselves. But the most important thing that I know from coaching very high end, independent, successful women is emotionally and spiritually and mentally connecting to them for them to open up so they can be in their feminine. Because there is a thing where the roles are switching, or at least the energies are changing. It's not that it's bad. A woman can still be in her mask and be independent because she wants more, and you still can serve her and make her feel safe. Some women just want more money and want to provide and have their own. They don't need your money, but they want your emotional depth. They want to feel at home in your presence. They want to feel safe in your presence. They want to be able to lay on your chest and tell you the world that person they looked up to when they needed a shoulder to lean on. Coaching so many women, I've had women on Zoom, in my workouts, crying, emotional. And here's the thing, there is moments where they are a little hesitant when I'm like, no, 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 it's okay. Let it go. You're safe here. Let your tears go. Let them out. And then they go and they go and then they cry more and they cry more and they cry more. And then I just listen. I'm patient. I'm holding space. And then they wipe their tears off and then they're fine again. But sometimes we want to have a solution for their tears. We want to have a solution for their problem instead of just listening, holding space, trusting what's coming through them. They don't need the answer. They have the answer. They're connected to divine more than we are because they're in their feminine, when they're emotional and vulnerable, and then they feel 10 times better. And it's like, that's all they want, brother. That's all they want from you. But you got to learn how to connect with your own emotions into your own vulnerability. No, listen, no one's going to have it all figured out. No one's going to be perfect. And then men and fellas, I don't want you to be perfect, but I want you to get in the space of being vulnerable. And I'm pretty sure if you have a great relationship with your mom and you tell your mom every day, that's the first woman you fall in love with is your mom. So you're probably vulnerable with her. You probably tell her everything, but why can't you tell the woman of your dreams or your partner or the lover of your life the same thing? So the collective is changing. It's very important as men for us to tap into our supernatural powers of our femininity, our emotional vulnerability, our emotional intimacy, to tap into our supernatural power to take on life with joy, with love, and with abundance. If you're acting as if you're okay, if you're acting as if you can provide, if you're acting as if you're vulnerable when you're not, She's going to smell it, she's going to feel it, and she's going to call you bluff. The most important thing with any woman in your life that you love and care about, you have to emotionally, mentally, and spiritually connect to them. In order to do that, you have to mentally, emotionally, spiritually connect to yourself. And that's why you should be vulnerable. Because vulnerability, like I said in the beginning, is a superpower and it's a pathway to authenticity. And last but not least, why men should be vulnerable. The guy who's the most vulnerable is actually the strongest. If you're a guy and you stand in front of me and you got it all together and you're strong and but you're not vulnerable and you're not tapped into your emotional side, your EQ, your emotional intelligence, and you're not hyper aware or super intuitive, and I can read through your BS and I can see the holes within your vessel. Not because it's bad, not because I'm better. It's just because I'm more aware of myself because I've done the work. And here's the thing. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I was super hypercritical in relationships. I was a perfectionist. I was a people pleaser. I did all these things because I didn't get love growing up from my mom. So I put women on a pedestal and I overgave and overdid where I didn't have boundaries. I wasn't strong and my boundaries when I didn't know how to say no. So I wasn't perfect. I learned, right? And I went through a lot going through that, but I've understand now that I know how to say no. I know how to hold you accountable. I know how to put my needs first when it matters to my mission or my career. There's a book, by the way, fellas, that you should read. It's called The Way to the Superior Man. And in that book, he said, if a man doesn't have a mission, he doesn't have a wife. If you think about the word submission, a woman will only submit to a man who has a mission. So, fellas, if you're out here looking good and you're acting cool, but you don't have no mission, she's not gonna submit to you because you don't have no mission. You don't have no purpose. You're just existing because you can, and you got to look, or you look good, or you got a mouthpiece and you know how to talk to women. Eventually, she's not going to stay because you're not holding space in a way that is trustworthy long in. Now, maybe you got somebody 10 years younger, 5 years younger, and you can control it because you have more information and life wisdom. That's cool. No, not. But I want men to be whole. I want them to be complete. I want them to be in their divine masculine and their divine feminine, their divine union. So, fellas, we got to break this tough guy. You ain't got to be tough to be in love. You ain't got to be tough to speak your truth. You ain't got to be tough to tell your woman, baby, I love you. I'm quick to tell my girlfriend, I miss you so much. I haven't seen her in 3 weeks. And I was telling a friend, a homegirl, she's like, oh, what you want, some TLC? I said, you damn right I want some TLC. I'm not ashamed about that. And fellas, sometimes we become ashamed around our feelings and our emotions. I couldn't wait to see my girlfriend and cuddle and become one and just connect and just be in her energy. It felt good. And when I saw her, oh, baby, it was magical. So, fellas, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Let's break this tough guy stereotype. And look, I know some of you are suffering in silence. I know some of you are acting like you got it all together. Because look, I've been that way, and I'm that way in some spurts still. I'm still learning how to be vulnerable in certain capacities in my life. Like I said, I ain't got it all together. My biggest challenge is asking for help or receiving help, right? But I've gotten better. So it's always a work in progress. We always got to be willing to grow and learn. But I'm here to tell you that emotional intimacy, improving your communication with yourself, building trust within yourself, and connecting to your higher self and your purpose and having some spiritual foundation will help you become vulnerable, right? So if you're listening and you think this resonates, share this episode, share, subscribe, like, and sign up for one-on-one coaching. Let's get on a tension call and I can show you as a man what you probably need to look at because you have the answers. I'm just open up the space so you can see what you can't see. I'm just the other side. I'm your mirror. And to women out there, if you're looking for a man and you can't find your king, I know what it is. It's like this. You don't feel safe being in your feminine. You don't feel safe speaking your truth. You're afraid to lose a man you're dating, so you walk on eggshells because you don't want him to leave you. Maybe you're at that age where you're like, well, what I'm gonna do, I'm getting old. So this is the only God is giving me attention. No, 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 no. That's a choice. That's a thought. That's not true. Sign up for one-on-one coaching. Work with me. The link will be all in the show notes. Shouts out to Simplify Impact, right? It does all my marketing for YouTube and social media. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And don't forget to get you some Miracle Season merch. Promo code M Season for 50% off. And if you're a guy or you're a girl and you just want to have a quick sidebar conversation, DM me on Instagram at Eric Bigger. And like I said, share this episode if it resonates. Give me some feedback. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's connect. But fellas, let's be vulnerable. Why you should be vulnerable in a relationship? Because it improves your communication. It builds trust. It builds confidence. You tap into your emotional intimacy, and that's the best intimacy you can have, especially with your woman, because the love is 10 times better. You're not just loving because you can. It's more unconditional and not conditional. And you break the stereotype of being a tough guy. Nobody wants to be tough, man. Stop all the tough guy and the cool guy stuff. Be a real guy, a real man, and stand in your truth. Be a nurturing man. Be a wholesome man. Be a trustworthy, authentic, a man of integrity by being vulnerable. So that's all. That's it. And don't forget to get you a bottle of Elia. EB20 is a promo code for orders up to $100, 20% off. You guys, I'm out. Spiritual Fitness Podcast. Peace.